Hello, again, Joe McGinnis, it's chapter 6, and here we're talking about the organizational constraints and the effect that they have on counterproductive behavior in the workplace. Through my research on the textbook and outside the textbook, I discovered there's really two counterproductive behaviors in the workplace. One of them is actually the withdrawal, with the employee with withdrawals. I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. And the other one is the abuse towards, or potential abuse or actual abuse towards others. And so when I begin with the idea of withdrawal, there's five elements really come to mind from my research. One was just straight absenteeism, right? Just missing work, typically unplanned. Now, if we had more time, we'd get into the absenteeism for legitimate reasons versus not so legitimate reasons. Save that for another day. Just simply being late, there would be extended breaks, for example. Ignoring coworkers is the fourth item in the list. And the other one that's kind of interesting is when these individuals who are withdrawn are talking to people on social media or any forms of communication outside of the workplace, to talk about just what a lousy place, in their mind anyway, their current employer is. So those are some of the more common ones. Some of the things that we're seeing, I've seen in my research this week, was social undermining, again, kind of going back to the social media, abuse of supervision, which is interesting in of itself, and then just the general workplace instability, just not talking to people, ignoring people, being introverted when the person may not necessarily be an introvert. And so the question then becomes, what are the consequences to this? And two things, come to mind, or I discovered it in my research. Just the general well-being, the potential threatening of not the shareholders, but the stakeholders, the employees within the company, whether they're employees or perhaps customers. The negative effect is that has the high propensity to actually make the average worker, the content worker, almost become frustrated when they see other people that are just not working as hard on average, even showing up. And then there's lots of research I'm finding and discovering there's the psychological and the emotional exhaustion which takes place when you have these type of negative work environments. We're also seeing the cost to the organization, right? That's sometimes in real cost and sometimes in soft cost. But in the case of the U.S. retail industry, it's estimated that over half, it's 65% is estimated, represents the percentage of goods and services that are stolen by employees, right? So that's over half of the theft rate for retail. Other things we're seeing in terms of the restaurant workers who may just be disgruntled towards their customers. We're seeing negative perception by the general community, by the customers that would be inclined, or maybe now in hindsight not so inclined because of the negative behavior they're seen by the employees. So it's interesting field. I'm personally sort of taking interest in it as I research it. What I'm looking for, I'm going to do some more research and see if it's actually out there. But I'm really curious to see, once that has been identified as negative behavior, what avenues we have as IO professionals to actually modify that negative behavior, short of termination, but just looking for other avenues of resolution. Thank you.